Hi, good afternoon to everybody. Hi from Mariana, Wow, Women of Worth. I'm here with Ruth Driscoll. I'm very happy to see you, Ruth. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm really good, and I'm just delighted that you've invited me to be a part of this, Mariana. I think it's a wonderful initiative.
Oh, thank you very much. Honest, I am so happy to have you here because anyway, International Women's Day is gone, but with Wow Women of Worth, we are on a mission to look after them and nurture each other for all the year round. And despite the fact that we are going to, we celebrate already the IWD, it's still times for us to celebrate in the sense that we are going to talk with women that they are on a mission to support other women. So, and because we are closing our festival on the 16th of March, honest, it was so important to me having you today and chat a little bit what you do. So let's introduce yourself, please, and in order for our audience to know more about what you do.
So I'm Ruth Driscoll, and as you may see on the bottom of the screen there, it says the Life Liberator, and that's connected with the work that I do, which is with those who are either in or they have been in a manipulative, controlling, even abusive relationship with their personal partner. And the Life Liberator is there because what I do is when I work with people, I give them their lives back, where that controlling person has tried to suck the life out of you.
Yeah, liberator indeed. So, for who doesn't know me that is on your channel, I would like to introduce briefly myself and give you a context. Basically, I am Marianna Penna. I am the founder and CEO of Wow Women of Worth, which was born in 2021 during pandemic to support women in business. And I created this business cultural bridge with intention to help each other. Had been so, I am Italian. At the time, I was in London. I came back to Naples as soon as I could travel back again. So I really want to give space to women that were struggling during the pandemic, especially women in business and solopreneurs. And why not create this cultural bridge in order to help women in Italy to have a more organizational mindset, as well as for women in the UK, maybe have that passion, creative mind that can leverage on. So it's great balance that we could put together. And why not creating collaborations in terms of business opportunities? This year, the theme is I Am Human. Every year, we are running this festival and we're trying to portray a social cause in order to, yes, of course, showcasing women in business, but also inspire women that maybe they are not in business or they are having a career as an employee that want to be inspired by other women. So this year, our theme is I Am Human, with intention like a reminder to women say, look, this is me. I am human with my flaws, but I'm embracing myself. And I'm not perfect. I'm not a machine. And this society, especially the digital and AI era, where everything looks perfect, I'm human, so I have emotions. And so let's help women to reconnect themselves. So everything is like here. The worth of women unfolds through connections. So that's why I'm wearing a heart piece. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, and the passion, the flame, and everything.
Lovely. Love it. Yeah.
So, Ruth, tell us, you are talking about the Life Liberator. So, tell me, what is your background? What happened in your life that is making you a step up in your life and liberate yourself in order to grow?
Yes. Well, it's interesting you saying, this is about recognizing you're human and that you're not perfect, because I think so often as women, what we do is we think we've got to do everything, don't we? And at the time that I myself was involved in a manipulative, controlling, abusive relationship, I was actually the head teacher, that's the principal of a very challenging, a large and challenging primary school. So a school of children aged from 3 to 11 in an inner city environment where there was a lot of challenge, a lot of diversity, huge social problems within the community. And so, it was a situation where a lot was demanded of me, and a lot of support for a very needy and challenging community, where I'm using strategies every day to support people to be the best versions of themselves, to know how to work and get over situations of bullying, situations of challenge within people's lives. And yet at home, I'm in this abusive relationship. So it feels like a real kind of dichotomy, doesn't it? But my gosh, did I learn a lot about myself, and a lot about what I was inadvertently doing to contribute to the situation of the control. Mariana, we were talking earlier, weren't we? And one of the things that I have recognized that's very true is that anyone who is in that situation where they are being controlled, they're being manipulated, they're potentially being abused also, you often end up feeling ashamed of yourself and feeling that somehow it's a weakness within you. But the reality, in my opinion, is that it's completely different. It's actually the very strengths, the very qualities that you have as a human being, that person, that controller, needs to be able to drain from you so that they can feel good about themselves. And so in order to recover from that, it's about recognizing that you do have amazing qualities: your kindness, your support, your loyalty, your generosity, the way that you try to make things better for other people around you, especially, as often happens in that abusive relationship, for that person. And that it's about still recognizing that you have those wonderful qualities about you, but it's about being wiser. When I managed to get out from my abusive relationship, I actually became extremely ill, because you're under a massive amount of stress, and so I did end up very, very seriously ill, almost to the point where I was thinking, I ended up in hospital, and I was thinking, gosh, is this it? Is this where this ends for me? And lying there, I was thinking really hard and realized I had to be a much wiser version of myself. I had to be somebody who still had the qualities that I knew I had, but that I wasn't allowing in somebody who would abuse the qualities and use my qualities in order to better themselves, further themselves, make them feel more, better about themselves. So I
Wow,
think
Melanie. This is interesting when you talk about the strength. So they need to be empowered by your strength in order that they are weak in you.
yes,
And this is an interesting perspective, because we think sometimes it's said it's the other way around, the fact that we are weak and
yes,
that's why they're abusing us. And what you are telling me is fascinating me. I have never seen in this perspective the fact that instead it's sucking your energy, your power, your strength for you to weaken you, of course, but not because you are weak, because you actually strong, and they
yes,
want to lower down your. And that's this something that is so important to share, as you say, that for women that instead they ended up having very manipulative, abusive relationship is not because they are weak, is their fault, but actually because they are strong enough and they want to suck their energy. This is very interesting perspective. What I'm curious to know about is the fact that when you realize then to liberate yourself. So how long, first of all, you've been in this abusive relationship?
I was in it for 8 years.
8 years, and you were married.
I had been married. I was very fortunate from that perspective that this was a relationship after my divorce.
Okay.
So these are one of the things that I sort of, thank my stars for. I didn't actually marry him. Although I do work with a lot of people who are going through the divorce process with somebody who is manipulative and controlling, because it can be very, very tricky. There's no logic to somebody who behaves in this way, and that's why it really kind of fries your brain. So I'd already had my own children, but he had children, and I did do my best to be a mother to them as well. So that kind of made things more complex, and made it more complex to leave, perhaps even after I don't think this is really working.
Yeah.
So there's lots of complexities involved as well, And so if you are married and you do share children with him, you do need a lot of that extra support to know how to handle this situation and how to continue the co-parenting into the future with that person.
Oh dear, yeah. And so, what triggered you? You said that you were ended up in the hospital, but was it after you leave him, or you left him, or it was that the thing that opened your eyes?
Well, it was. I was in the process of getting rid of him, of chucking him out. He was living in my house at that particular time. And various things had happened that I knew, I could not continue with the situation as it was, and I had to do something about it. And it was one very particular day when I was confronting him. Well, I had confronted him the day before when he'd come hurling abuse at me. And then the next day, because this is what happens with a controlling person, they can be this person 1 minute and then boom, a completely different person, seemingly within seconds. And so the next day he came, all puppy dog eyes and sweetness and light, and butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. And it was at that point that I had a realization, because he was, when somebody's standing in front of you and they're being sort of really kind and they're asking seemingly for your help, that was when I realized, my tendency is when someone's in front of me and saying, Ruth, could you please help? I'm automatically saying, yes, of course I'll help, before I work out, well, can I? Have I got the time? Have I got the resources? It was an automatic response for me to just say, yeah, I'll help. And I knew that him coming there in front of me and seemingly asking for help, I had this realization, oh my God, I'm going to say yes to him. But I knew I mustn't. And so I had this sort of surge of energy and churning emotions inside me as I'm trying to stop myself. And when you're in a controlling a relationship as well, one of the things you do, you shut down externally so that your emotions can't be shown. Well, that puts a heck of a lot of strain on you. So I was standing there fighting with myself and realizing, the problem here, in a sense, it's not him, it's actually me. I'm self-sabotaging myself. If I'm not really careful here. And it was then that I felt like something had grabbed my guts and wrenched them around inside. And so it was a few days later that the result of that, was a very serious outcome from it. I started bleeding, from the bowel, and
my
as
God.
a result of that, that's when I became increasingly ill, and it was eventually diagnosed as ulcerative colitis. But I know that it was that strain of that day was exactly when it happened. So yeah, there's so many complications involved in it, but it was when I was lying in my hospital bed and thinking about all these things, and that's when I thought to myself, do you know what? I've got to be wiser here, because unless I recognize what I'm doing, what I'm inadvertently contributing to this, I'm still open, I'm still vulnerable. This could still happen to me again. So, there was a very tough way to learn your lesson, but there was a lot of learning that came out from that. And it was because, you're saying I'm only human. It's because you're perhaps trying to be too much of a superhuman sometimes, that you sabotage yourself. And this is where that realization of I've got to recognize what I can do, but also I've got to recognize what I can't. There's a saying that I use, it's very well known, but I use it a lot with my clients, and I use it a lot for myself as well, which is that grant me the courage to change the things I can, the serenity to accept the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. For me,
Wow.
that's so, that's
Reminder. Yeah, you need to put later on the comment box. Would be interesting to have. Yeah,
will. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
please. So, for your then experience and working with other women, helping them to overcome those, I don't know if you're working after the trauma or during the trauma of the abusive relationship, but what do you think is triggering in the woman the fact that the person is abusive? Because, as you said at the beginning, the line is very subtle. You don't really see, is controlling. In the meantime, is kind, and you get confused because, yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Right? But when it starts within the woman, because I think our sixth sense is always there and is warning us that something's wrong. But what is your experience that you'll say, wow, when you have this thought or this feeling, it could be on the stomach, it could be, in the feeling sick. What is the thing that is triggering the thought that the relationship is going in the wrong way?
Well, that thought will have been lurking around for quite a long time. But what happens is that you ignore it, you push it aside, you make an excuse, you make a justification. Oh, he's stressed. Oh, we just need to get through this. So you're sort of creating those excuses, if you like, for why that person is behaving the way they do. And there's a reason why that is so. More often than not, when your relationship with that person starts, it's often quite wonderful. There's something about them that seems, almost ideal, and you seem to have such connection. It seems to work so well. And so as a result of that, once it starts going wrong, you sort of almost overcompensate to try to get it back to the way it was. And as often happens with women, we blame ourselves. We think, well, it's something that I'm doing. And of course, that controlling person will reinforce that for you on a regular basis. So you end up in this state of major confusion, really. It's like your life goes into a kind of turmoil that you don't know what way is up anymore. You lose trust in your own judgment. You lose a sense of yourself. And it's because of the way that the manipulation and the control happens. It's like being kind of drawn down into a little vortex. And when you're right at the bottom of that and you realize this is not right, that's when you're in the worst possible place to do something about it. So it's very, very complicated. And, you know, people on the outside can look in and say, well, why don't they just leave? But it's just, there's so much involved, and it's so much more complex than that, that it's not a case of you know, you realize something's it's not right, and that it's probably never going to be right. It just doesn't happen like that, because you're in this place where you're thinking, what happened to that great relationship? What happened to our connection? And the other thing that happens, which creates real confusion for you, is that sometimes they will get a sense that you're pulling away. And so the charm offensive comes back, and you think, oh, it's all right, it's all working again, until they've got you there again, the grip's back. And that's when the abusive behavior starts again. So it's not like something you can draw, you know, a nice line and say, oh, this point, this point, this point. It's like a piece of string that's gone really tangled.
Yeah, we were talking about these strings. So when we're
that's exactly what it's like. It's like a tangled mess.
Yeah. And how do you help your clients? So what is the kind of work you do for them to have this awareness? And actually, they come to you when they are in the middle of a relationship that they're feeling that are falling apart, and they realize that is an abusive one, or after like a trauma work. So what is the kind of way you help them?
So the way in which I help people, it's what I call elegant assertiveness, that I give exact strategies for what you do, what you say, how you do things differently, that you can stop that person from running their patterns of manipulation and control. So it's quite subtle. And they're very small changes, but it's also a lot of observation, observing what that person is doing. So you start to perceive the patterns that they are running. Then we put in place strategies that you can stop them from running those patterns. And here's the thing, it can actually, the change around can happen quite quickly. Because it only takes one occasion when you think that you're under the grip of that person, that they've got the control, that they're the powerful one, because that's what you think. They've got the power. And that's, you know, that's the perception that you have. But it only takes one little occasion when you just slightly pop that bubble of power that they hold over you. And what happens there? Your whole perception starts to change. Now you're seeing things differently. But that controlling person is relying on you thinking that they're in charge, that they've got the power, that they've got the control. But once you start seeing it differently and you can change your perspective, then you can really start to regain the trust in yourself. For me, I used to be so bewildered. I used to think, how has he interpreted what I've said in that way when I meant the complete opposite of that? I just didn't understand what was going on. And then it was, I had the realization that everything that came out of his mouth was either twisted, manipulated, or exaggerated. And when I had that realization, that's when things started to make more sense for me. And that's when I started to, you know, climb myself out from that vortex that I'd been sucked into. But yeah, so it's very, very specific strategies. It's understanding what's happening with you, understanding what's happening with him, and then knowing exactly what to do about it, to the minutest little detail. So not just the words, but exactly what you're doing with your body, with your face, even your eyes.
Wow, this is interesting. The fact that they were exaggerating whatever you say, and this is basically because basically they say you said that, So it's like the only thing they exaggerated, so it's giving even more power in order that you see this monster that is growing in your hands, and it makes you scared because, oh my God. And then you see coming from his mouth, this is allowing them to be empowered over to you. And that is something that psychologically is pushing you down and makes you scared to face them. And I love the fact that you say is like they are weak, because at the end of the day they are so weak and they are like a bubble. And if you touch the bubble, saying exactly what you maybe have said, but you empower yourself to destroy that bubble, you are killing them. So, and they are weak again.
Yeah, because, once you've started that process, you realize how limited they are. They only succeed if you react in the way that you're supposed to, which is to be fearful, to apologize, it only works if you're reacting in the way that they need you to. And if you're not, oh my goodness, that throws them out completely. So what do I do now? So all you get is a more exaggerated version of what they were doing in the first place. But the thing is that somebody who needs to behave in this way is very emotionally immature. And that means that they haven't got resilience. They haven't got a range of strategies. They haven't got a range of strengths of integrity, honesty. They haven't got those. Life's very convenient when you can live without any conscience whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. But when you say the no for them, so, and then they become fuming, they fume about it. Could be then you have the risk that they can take power over to you in a different way. How can you say the no that that is going to upset them, but in order that they can become more abusive or even violent over to you? Is there a way how you can deal with that to help women?
Yes. Well, the key here is not that you're standing up to them in any kind of confrontational way, because, with everything that I do, I have to be certain that somebody is safe within that.
Yeah.
So it's not about you confronting them. That's why I say it's about elegant assertiveness, because the underpinning principle of everything that I teach, it's about respect. So you always behave with the utmost respect, with dignity, with grace, with kindness, with compassion. And that feels like, but I don't want to be compassionate to them anymore. But here's the key. That's because what we're working on here is a strategy to get yourself free from that person's control. And that strategy has to be safe. It has to be effective. And it has to allow you to come out the other side still as you, but a wiser version of you. So there's nothing that's confrontational about it.
Yeah, no, because I totally understand. Because if they lose control, that can, because they lose control and they don't know where to start, it can be very violent over to you because they lost the plot, and that could be ending up with something, as you said, unsafe altogether. And which kind of program you run? Is got I don't know, is 6 months, 1 year? What is the way you help women for them to, if they have to overcome a situation which is really urgent for them?
Yes. So the initial program, you would become a member of the Elegantly Empowered community for 6 months, but that can be continued at a very low ongoing rate. But the important thing there is that you're within the community, that you've got the support of the community as well. But you also have access to all the learning, the strategies, the exact processes that you need to go through. Plus, we have regular weekly meetings where we meet together, and everyone also has the opportunity to to engage with a one-to-one session with me as well. So it's about creating an environment that really supports women to succeed, to not just overcome, but to embed that overcoming so that they end up feeling really strong. And the other key thing I think about also being part of a community, I know when I came out of my relationship, one of the major things I felt was absolutely ashamed of myself that this had happened to me. But it's not you who should be feeling ashamed, you know. And so it's overcoming that, and being able to talk about it really does help overcome that. When I was building this business, because of the health problems that I was now suffering from, I had to resign from my position as head teacher. And then I thought, well, you know, I've got to earn a living. What am I going to do? How am I going to earn a living? And I thought, well, I've got a qualification in life coaching. I should set up a business as a life coach. So I went to discover, well, how do I do that? How do I set up my business? And I joined a mastermind meeting, mastermind group, and I discovered that you needed to niche. You no good just being a general life coach. You had to have something that you were known for. So I thought, oh, okay, what should I do? I could do leadership. I could do child development. I could do learning skills. I could do confidence building. Yeah, there's a lot I could do. And they were going, no. You got to do that thing, you know, that you went through. And I went, what? No way. There's no way I'm going to do that. I want to forget that happened to me. I'm ashamed it happened to me. But it's like, you know, someone sows that little seed, and I realized, you know, that because of what I had gone through, and because of who I was, and the experience, the career experience that I had, I was in the perfect place to be able to help others who were in that situation. So yes, so I became an entrepreneurial businesswoman, kicking and screaming, Marianne.
Really?
Go there.
Of course. Wow. Yeah. It must be, you know, as you said, is you want to forget, but when instead you realize you can help so many other lives and actually
Yeah.
save some lives. It could be emotionally, it could be physically,
Yes.
save lives. You don't really mean only from a physical point of view, but also spiritual and
Yeah.
mental.
It humbles me, Mariana, that several of the people that I have worked with were at that point where they were saying, I'm going to take my own life,
Yeah, I know. I can imagine. So
because
that's
you
why.
feel so bad about yourself. And yeah, and I
Yeah,
understand that. Yeah.
yeah, phew, is something. But if you could choose one word that is not only a word for yourself for 2024, but a hope, a hook, to save these women from themselves, what could it be?
I think that the big word for me here is trust,
Mm,
because when you're in that abusive situation where your world feels like it's just been turned on its head, you don't trust yourself. And when you don't trust yourself, it's very hard for you to make decisions, for you to even value yourself. So rebuilding that trust in yourself is the first fundamental thing that needs to happen. That you know it's not you. You don't need to believe those negative messages about yourself that controlling person has put into your head. But when you trust yourself, then you have the strength to continue that journey and be able to trust others again. Because it's not only important that you release yourself from that situation of manipulation and control, but that you can go on from there and live a full life, not a life where you're worried, what if it happens to me again? My promise to people is that you come out absolutely confident this could never happen to you again.
Wow. And for young women instead that they can embark in a toxic relationship, what would you warn them with?
Yes, well, it's really the minute you start to feel uncomfortable, if suggestions are being made to you that make you feel uncomfortable or make you feel perhaps unsafe, or that you feel that this is not the way that I dreamt I would be being treated within a relationship, then those are the warning signs that you need to trust yourself. You need to value what it is that's going on inside you. That gut instinct, we tend to forget about it, but it's such a crucial part of who we are as human beings that if you ignore that little gut feeling, then somewhere along the line you will realize why it was important that you should have paid heed to it. You should have taken notice of it. So trust your gut instinct, and that's hard when you're still quite young, and you want to be able to fit in, but realize how important you are. And if something is happening, that even if it's just a little tiny kick in your gut that says, not sure about that, but it was only momentary, don't ignore it. And then stay alert.
And in case instead they feel that they are in danger and they are not able to, it's too late for them, for example, to be in touch with you or going through that process. You are based in the UK, whereabout in London?
Yes, I'm just outside of London, but I work online. So,
Okay. If
that's,
they are in danger or they feel really that they need support psychologically, who they can rely on as public institutions? What would you
well,
recommend?
oh yes, well, it's a case of I think looking around to see what refuges there may be. If you're in physical danger that you need to be able to get out quickly, it's looking to see where there are refuges that you could get to for physical safety. But what I also recommend is where you have perhaps a trusted family member or a trusted friend, although I always put caveats around things like this. There's always the complication, that you have an arrangement set up with that person, that if you need to get out quick, that you know that you can go to that person. The reason I put the little caveat around, a trusted friend or even a family member is because those manipulative, controlling people can be extremely charming, and they can sometimes get to your friends. So if you're concerned that that may possibly be the case, maybe drop them a little bit of misinformation and see whether that bit of misinformation somehow gets back to you through the controller. And then you'll know that they too have succumbed to that, the grip of control, this time in the face of being Mr. Absolute Charm himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be wary. In lockdown, there were a few people I knew that potentially might have needed to get out quickly, and so I sort of arranged through just mutual friends that lived close by that there was somewhere that they could go. It wasn't needed in the end, but yeah. But if you are in physical danger, you have to get out. There's no ifs or buts about that. You've got to get out, and you've got to get out as soon as you can. But yes, do get in touch with me, and I can let people know how to plan that so that they can leave.
Brilliant. Ruth, thank you very much.
Where there's not, you know, the physical danger, you know, because there's such a range of it, from right down from that emotional abuse, just making you feel bad about yourself. Any relationship where you are being made to feel bad about who you are, that is an abusive relationship.
Yeah,
No,
and of course, we're talking about abusive relationship. It doesn't mean that it has to be only between men and women. It could be between women. It could be between men.
yes.
So that is increasing, unfortunately, everywhere. So
Yeah. Yes, I work with men. I work with people where the controller is a parent, or it's somebody that they're dealing with at work, or a business partner. Yeah, you know, the same strategies apply. It's just, you know, how it affects you.
absolutely.
You feel bad. It's not a good relationship. It's toxic.
Absolutely. So, well, I really thank you for this, because there is so much to talk about, and I'm sure we are going to have in another occasion to, hopefully, for our Entrepreneur Pulse podcast, which has been launched. So,
Amazing.
yeah, great to having you there.
Thank
And so, what I invite you, please, after the live, if you can comment with their saying, and also your handles to reach you out, in order for people that are watching this live recording live, they can get in touch with you, because we really want to spread the word, because women, we are fantastic humans, and even with children, unfortunately, there are some abusive relationships for children, and so on and so on. So there is a lot to do, and we are here to reach as much as possible to help people that they are no longer human, because someone has taken off their heart, which is the trust in themselves and in others. So
Absolutely.
thank you very much, Ruth. I'll see you around soon then. You take care.
Thank you so much, Mariana.
My pleasure. Bye bye. See you soon.